Mercedes Moné, creative control in AEW. You've seen this narrative, right? You've seen the memes. She's the new Hulk Hogan. Yeah. She's a racist old guy who's washed up and according to MJF is the worst wrestler in the world. Yeah, she's Hulk Hogan. I don't think so. But, of course, during the All In Texas media call on July 8th, AEW President Tony Khan directly addressed recent speculation about whether or not Mercedes Moné has creative control over pro-direction in the company, which is a laughable statement, yet this guy, this billionaire, or at least his daddy has $1 billion, I don't know, take up the dick, he has to go on these media calls and talking about whether or not Mercedes Moné, one of his hot-tier talents, one of his biggest stars, who is just days away from challenging Tony Storm for the AEW World Championship at All In Texas, whether or not she has creative control. Why do people think this? Well, first of all, because before we get into Mr. TK's comments, let me set the scene for you. Mercedes Moné is undefeated in AEW, okay? She has gone through the gauntlet of challengers. She's stacked them up and knocked them out of the ballpark. That's what Mercedes Moné does. She beats people. She wins matches. She's a winner. Why is that? Why would Tony Khan? Golly, why would Tony Khan want to protect Mercedes Moné? How about the fact that she is one of 2 actual women stars? Star power. You know, people that want to go and pay money to see, it's her and Tony Storm. That's why this match at All In Texas is such, I don't know, a big freaking deal. Okay, so he brings in Mercedes, and she struggles for a while before finding her way with her promos, and she starts having absolute banger-type matches, and Tony Khan is thinking, golly, these big money checks that I'm signing and sending off to Mercedes Moné, which she's depositing into her bank account every month, sure is paying off. And so he books her accordingly. Because if you're a star, you use a star. You want to be used as a star. So anyway, TK, he's on this media call. He says that's definitely not true at all. I've wanted Mercedes Moné in AEW. She's a big star on this show. I really enjoy working with her backstage. I also think it's ridiculous, the idea that people would think because she's a strong wrestler on the show that she must be one dictating that. That is complete opposite of what happens here. Khan brought up the fact that he has the final say on all creative matters in AEW. Golly, isn't that a shocker? You know, he is the boss, y'all. Now, he also talked about how he has a philosophy that he's held since AEW's inception. He explained that his approach to working with top-tier talent like Mercedes Moné. He said, I have a high opinion of Mercedes in particular. They are 2 of the best wrestlers on the planet. They are 2 people I met or meet with every single week. At least once a week, but usually multiple times a week. Tony, you could just really simplify and just say, I often meet with them, but you know what? Go, man. He continued. Hear out ideas that they might have and hear out ideas I have for both. I'm very involved in the direction of the character personally in case of this match. It's something I really wanted to have in AEW for such a long time. Wow, Tony, I really feel your connection to this match. He concluded by reinforcing his position on creative control within the company. The idea that anybody in AEW has creative control, and that's why anybody would get a push here because they dictate it. That's not how it works. Wow, that's shocking. When have somebody on that stature you would want to feature them and push them strongly? Golly, Tony, you're making a lot of sense there, bud. Y'all, what are we doing? I think in some times in life you gotta ask, what are we doing? What are we trying to accomplish? I would ask that in this situation with Mercedes Moné. Why wouldn't AEW? Why wouldn't Tony Khan? Why wouldn't they want to use these talents? Mercedes Moné, Tony Storm, Will Ospreay, John Knotsley, right? Swerve Strickland. Why? Why? Why is it that Mercedes Moné has such hate? You look at the 4 horsewomen. You have your Charlotte Flair, wow, I went with the wrong 4 horsewomen. So there is the 4 horsewomen at WWE. That is Mercedes Moné. That is Charlotte Flair. That is Bayley. That is Becky. Let's of course hit 4 horsewomen of MMA. Then you can rattle those off, including Lana Rousey, Bella Care, But why is it that Mercedes Moné gets so much hate within the AEW fan base or the WWE fan base or pro wrestling in general? Why is that? Why is that? I don't have a clear-cut answer for you. Maybe the way that she carries herself, maybe the way that she conducts herself. I don't really fully know. All I knows is that Mercedes Moné is a very, very talented wrestler. All I knows is that Mercedes Moné is a really, really good professional wrestler, both on the mic, in the ring, and as the star power, right? I touched on this in a recent bigger video, but it's like, okay, you're AEW, you are Tony Khan, you are not only trying to grow a business, you are also trying to avoid these massive hurdles, right? You're trying to grow a brand in which has already taken kind of a big hit. Okay, it's not as popular as it once was. It's not a situation in which they're absolutely thriving. It's not anything like that. Tony Khan is in a situation in which you have to look at it and go, okay, we have to use certain talents, and we have to use certain talents in certain ways. Mercedes Moné and Tony Storm and others are main event type talents. You have to use them in that high position way. If you don't do that, then what are you paying them for, right? With talent that are top tier talent, you're doing two different things. You're either moving that star up the card because they draw so much eyeballs and they draw so much money for you, or you're using a star to help bring up talent that you see upside in. Mercedes Moné is in the first part of that category. She is a star that draws in audience. She's a star that draws in reaction. She's a star that draws in opinions. That's what Mercedes Moné is doing right now. So you're not going to have her go out there and lose every week. You're not going to go out there and have her look weak every week. You're going to position her in situations in which she can showcase her strengths and hide her weaknesses. That's all that Tony Khan is doing. Does he go overboard sometimes with that? Yes. But it's not the fact that, Mercedes Moné is pulling a Hulk Hogan or any crazy thing like that. So I think that talk needs to slow down a little bit. But yeah, that's what's going on with Mercedes Moné. That's what's going on with Mercedes Moné's status in AEW. And that's something to keep in mind when we talk about Mercedes Moné in general.